Welcome to the Friday Happy Hour with victory strategist, award-winning author, and your happy hour host, Annmarie Kelly. Each week, Annmarie chats with women who have reinvented, started over, or wrote fabulous next chapters. They share how they overcame their midlife challenges and how you can too. So kick back with some good happy hour something to drink and enjoy today's show.
All of my friends tell me that I'm the good girl, yes they do. They all see me as being so perfect, little Miss Goody Two-Shoes. If I do something a little risque, they all gasp and I just say, good girl, wanna get crazy sometimes too.
You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour with me, Annmarie Kelly. I'm that recovering good girl and your victorious woman empowerment partner. This is where us victory chicks and you men who care about us meet on Fridays to chat about things we can do to achieve our goals, overcome our challenges, and get empowered so our lives can sparkle. Thanks for joining me for Happy Hour today. We're doing something different during today's show. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but here's what we're doing. Longtime broadcaster and author Lorraine Rannali is here. And you probably know Lorraine from her more than 20 years as a broadcaster and corporate trainer, or you know her from her fabulous book, Gravy Wars, or her radio show, Cucina Chatter. Well, today Lorraine is here, and I've got her working. Lorraine was gracious enough to come to Happy Hour to interview me and my spouse, Joseph Eagle, and he's here too, about the topic of my new book, The 5-Year Marriage. This is the first time, which will be out in June. This is the first time Joseph and I have been doing an interview about the very different way we've been living our marriage over the past 28 years. And I'm honored that Lorraine is the one doing this first interview with us. So we'll be doing a host shift in a few minutes. Listen, I hope you managed well with the snow yesterday. It was very weird having 60-degree weather one day and freezing weather and snow the next. But the snow ended early, and the kids got a snow day out of it, so maybe that's what Punxsutawney Phil was talking about on Groundhog Day, huh? Well, Valentine's Day is around the corner, and that means, and this is especially for you guys, you have 4 days to get your sweetie a Valentine's Day card. Well, actually 3.5. And you should do it today or tomorrow, because by Sunday, there will be fewer cards to choose from, and you could get stuck. And by stuck, I mean getting a card that doesn't say what you really wanted to. And I hate when that happens. Now, I don't know about you, but in my family, we pay attention to the words on those cards. So when it comes to Valentine's Day, I'm not the one to get those icky, adoring kinds of cards, and neither is Joseph. But we both pay a lot of attention to the words on the cards, and more attention to the words on the card itself. But looking for the right card has its challenges. Like I saw the other day, there was a card with a man of my dreams on the outside. And it had a nice, it was pretty. It had a pretty front. And I was curious about what it said, so I read it. It was so soppy that I thought I was going to throw up right in the Hallmark store. And then it reminded me of a bride who once told me that she was marrying the man of her dreams. But the man was somebody I knew pretty well, and still do. And he wasn't the man of anyone's dreams. So every time she said, I'm marrying the man of my dreams, all I could think was, geez, he'd be the man of my nightmares. But she didn't know that then. And she found out over time. And down the road, I sometimes wondered if she ever thought about that man of my dreams thing. So you have to be careful with some of your cards. Well, then there was another one about soulmates. And I guess if you're new and crazy in love, that might be a good one. But even when I was single, I came to learn that we probably have a lot of soulmates, because I learned that some of my soulmates were temporary. And that wasn't a bad thing. They were guys with whom I shared a particular interest for a time. You know, we felt like soulmates maybe because we connected over some odd music or racquetball or some other interest that fanned a flame. And when the flame died down, we went our separate ways. In fact, there's a guy in Florida that I recently reconnected with. We met in an exercise class about 25 years ago. And he's a nurse, and back then was instrumental in helping Joseph get his massage business started. I knew him when we exercised, and when he got married, and then divorced, and when he came out. We lost touch for years after that, and thanks to LinkedIn, we reconnected last summer. Well, he lives in Florida now, and when we talked for the first time in years, we talked for a couple hours. And every now and then we reconnect again. In fact, this week I got a thinking of you text from him. Well, I have that kind of soulmate feeling with him. He's like having a good girlfriend. And he likes being that, so it works out for us. But clearly there's nothing romantic about our relationship. But I digress. If you haven't gotten your sweetie a Valentine's Day card yet, do it today. And don't be cheap about it. I know those cards are outrageously expensive, but don't pass over the one that says what you mean and what you really want your sweetie to know in favor of another one that doesn't hit the mark, but it's cheaper. I know, paying $5, $6, $7 for a card is a lot of money. But if it's from your heart, just remember that the feeling you're expressing and how good it'll make your sweetie feel, that's priceless. And okay, if you really don't have the money, because you spent a small fortune on that fabulous gift, buy the other card, but handwrite something in it. Maybe there's something you saw in the more expensive card. Joseph always does something I love. He draws on the envelope. And to me, that's special because Hallmark, nobody could do that except him. So sometimes something handwritten in the card trumps the prepackaged stuff. And Valentine's Day isn't all about the feelings. I mean, it is all about the feelings. All kinds of feelings. So I saw something interesting while I was flipping channels on the morning shows yesterday. It was on the Today Show, and I'm wondering if you saw it. It was about neuroscientist Nicole Prause. She's doing a brain health research project about the healing power of touch with couples. She wants to find out what happens in the brain during sex and how it affects health. Now, what Prause does is she wires a couple who are willing to do this, and I can't even imagine who's willing to do it, but she finds somebody who's willing to do it, and she wires them up on like their heads and stuff to some kind of a monitoring device. Then, while they have sex in the other room, she watches what happens in their brains. It's a little odd, huh? But Prause thinks that based on the research, at some point in the future, because of the healing powers of, she says, the healing powers of sex, doctors might even prescribe sex, just like other therapies for things like pain management or headaches. And she says 36% of the people have a low libido, and that it gets in the way of their good health. So she's developing a headset that will help stimulate that part of the brain. So, someday, if you're not as interested as you used to be, you can put on that headset and kick things up a notch. So sex is medicine. It's interesting. But then I was thinking, is that presuming you have a partner? But what if you don't? Do you get the same benefits if you do your own thing? But besides that, here's the bigger picture of what I was thinking. How much of the health benefits come from the actual sex and how much of it comes from the touching that goes with sex? And I was thinking about that because about 20 years ago, Joseph and I, who are both Reiki practitioners, and of course Joseph's a muscle therapist and really into the power of touch, Joseph and I were asked to speak at a conference on Erasmus, which is the official name for healing power, for the healing power of touch. Back then, the science of biofield therapy, which is what this whole Nicole Prause research project is, it's on biofield therapy, didn't even exist except in circles that might have been considered like airy-fairy or woo-woo. Certainly not scientific. Well, not anymore. It's a bona fide science. And some of the research that's being done about the health benefits of biofield therapy includes all kinds of groups, from babies to people who are dying, to those who have depression and maybe mental illness. And it's amazing. So listen, if you didn't see today's show, the Today Show yesterday, I posted a link to that on the segment on today's radio wrap-up at victoriouswoman.com. I also posted a link to the NIH website, National Institute of Health website, that explains biofield therapy and has a lot of links to articles about this biofield therapy thing. It's a pretty fascinating topic, and one that might get increasingly more interest as social media and its penchant for the lack of human touch grows bigger in our society. You know, people think that you can make that connection through social media, and you can make sort of a connection, but it's not the same connection as when you're face-to-face with somebody, or when you get a hug, or when you get a kiss, or when you're just touching somebody's arm. So this is all what the biofield therapy research is doing. So if you're thinking of what to do in your next chapter, or you're looking for a career in reinvention, check out this biotherapy stuff. Biofield therapy. I said it wrong. Biofield therapy. That could be a possibility for you. But for my next chapter, I'm going to be talking about the 5-year marriage. And I'm so appreciating that Lorraine Rannali is here to talk with me and with Joseph about the 5-year marriage. And I'm appreciating that my sweetie, Joseph Eagle, gave up the afternoon of work to join me. So that's the kind of gift I like from my Valentine. So we're going to go for a break. So go get some good happy hour something to drink. And when we get back, Lorraine Rannali will be in charge. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Remember when you wished you had more time for yourself? And now you have it, but you notice you're keeping busy with stuff, but that stuff isn't making you feel happy or filled up? And when you think about what would make you happy and filled up, you get stuck or feel overwhelmed. And then you go back to what's more familiar, more comfortable, even if it's not making you happy. Wouldn't you love to find a way to start making sense of that deep discontent you're feeling? Well, you're not alone. I'm Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. And I know there's a place for you, one that other women have found to be both inspirational and empowering. And it's the Victorious Woman Project. Go there now and get on my mailing list, where you'll be the first to know about my upcoming online workshops, teleseminars, and more. And while you're there, take a couple minutes to look over my blog. You can download some of the free stuff I have for you and let it get your creative juices going. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the Victorious Woman Project. And that's at www.victoriouswoman.com.
All right, welcome back, WCHE. I love this. 15:20 a.m., Lorraine Rannali here, and I'm taking over the Annmarie Kelly Show, otherwise known as Friday Happy Hour.
I'm glad you're here, Lorraine.
I really appreciate this. I was looking so much forward to this because it's been a while since I've hosted a show, and certainly a while since I've been on air at all, but I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad you are.
And hello, Joseph.
You sound good.
Do I?
Yes, you really do. You can tell that you're a pro at this.
Do I have a future in this?
Yeah, I think you might.
I would love to. Wow, where do we begin? So let me start by giving everybody just a little bit of background. I ran into Annmarie a couple of months ago at Press Club, which is a network that we're both involved with, and she was talking about her next wedding. And you must have seen the quizzical look on my face, and she said, oh, my husband and I get married every 5 years. And I thought, oh, that's cute. They re-up their vows or whatnot. And then you were talking about going to a different church, and I thought, well, that's neat. And I guess, whatever, you've been married, you go to a different church, try it out. Mm-hmm. And then I was kind of thinking, maybe this is just a good gift opportunity, or you like to go on honeymoons.
Or a chance to get a new dress.
So we get talking, and she said, she had already said that she wanted to have me on the show, and I'm not really ready to talk about my next project, though maybe we'll get it in. I don't know.
Yeah, and yep.
And then, we got talking, and she said about her book coming out, and I think it was your idea. You said, why don't you come and interview me on my show?
Do you know what, Lorraine, I did, because I was going to do this with Joseph, and then I started to think it out, and I thought it would be a little awkward for me to interview me and Joseph about the book I'm writing about our marriage.
Right. You'll have to ask your own questions, answer your own questions,
yeah.
Which most women do pretty well. But
well, that's true.
It's a habit.
But you're so good at it.
Oh, stop it. The pressure is so on, and everybody at work is listening. So I want to give special props to Rick Durante, who let me leave the office a little early today to do this.
Yeah, thank you.
And he'll be my agent in the next talks. But anyway, So she said, it's, my book is The 5-Year Marriage. And I thought nothing of it. That sounds cute. We'll do it, And I was so pumped up about it. And then over the holidays, I'm emailing Annmarie, get me the manuscript. I am a slow reader. I need this. So I get the manuscript. And, of course, then the procrastination kicks in. I started it right away. I was kind of intrigued by the introduction, which I want to talk to you about. And then I wrapped up Sunday night. And we're going to be full disclosure here. I got up Monday morning. And I thought, I can't do this show. This book was not at all what I thought it was going to be. So I sent Annmarie an email. I said, we need to talk. I'm not sure I'll do you justice. And then I get her reply. And I must have sent you into a little bit of a panic because you thought,
a little.
What am I going to do? Oh, Joseph.
Wine would have been good that night.
And then we discussed it, and I said, okay, great, we'll do this. And it'll come out why I had those concerns as we do this interview. So let's set up a little bit of disclosure, right now. The subject matter and views of the real host of this show and author of The 5-Year Marriage do not necessarily represent those of the guest hosts and others, maybe Fred here in the studio. I'm not sure, though. I won't speak for Fred. But it's all good. You know what? This is a great opportunity for discussion, and we had a wonderful conversation Monday night.
Well, and Lorraine, I was amazed. I didn't realize that you taught pre-K.
Well, we'll get into all that.
So I thought, well, I couldn't have asked a better person.
Not a coincidence.
Yeah, because it's just...
No, everything is a God incident. I believe
absolutely.
that. Absolutely.
Yep.
So let's talk about, let's let everybody understand a little bit what the 5-year marriage is. And I assume your regular audience already knows because you probably have spoken about it, or...
I have a couple times, yeah. Different things have come up where I've talked about it, and I think I've talked about it just in the fact that that it's just taking forever for me to write it in a way that I can get it to the editor now, but...
And people know that I'm real now.
They know you exist.
They hear about me, so I do exist out there. So
he does. I see him in the flesh. I thought this was going to be a fairy tale novel, love story, and it's really a how-to. This is how to put together your contract, the reasons why to do it. But it starts from an interesting place, and that's where I want to begin. But Annmarie had, you mentioned in your intro some things, and if you don't mind, I'm a very upfront, straightforward person.
Yeah, go ahead.
You had some issues with your family upbringing, watching friends get divorced. You had that classic female fairy tale idea of a wedding with the white dress and all the, frivolity that goes along with it. And that came kind of crashing down on you. You were engaged to be married.
I was.
And you were out with your fiance, and a friend said later on, hey, this isn't the guy really for you. You better second guess it. And kudos to you for not, most women and men would say to the friend, bye-bye, don't mess with my love life. But you didn't. You took heed. You listened to her and you started questioning things and then brought that up with your fiance.
Well, it wasn't like I really wanted to do it. It's just that, I have to tell you, Lorraine, to this very day, it had to be the grace of God because it was not in my, I was on that pre-program that says, okay, and you go to school and then you get married. You go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, and all that. So at 22, when I was engaged, and I was crazy in love with the guy. And then it turned out that, her name was Jean, whatever Jean said to me that night, I honestly,
it clicked.
It doesn't, at first I was like, I think she's dramatic. I think she's just making something out of nothing. But then, I thought, well, I should at least talk about it.
Did you have reservations prior to that? Did you have any questions, a little cold feet, anything that you ignored?
No, the absolute only thing that happened was about 10 days before that, I had a dream. I woke up in the middle of the night with a start. I had a dream that somebody had taken a chisel and put it right through my diamond.
Really?
Yeah. And I thought... I was disturbed by that dream, but I thought,
you buried it.
I absolutely buried it, like so many people do when they get.
So many people do. It's right, the red flags that we ignore. Mm-hmm. But you didn't ignore her. It's interesting that you didn't write about the dream. Now, if I was editing your book, I'd say put that dream in there.
Oh, interesting. I'll think about that.
Yeah, what do they call that when you have those?
Like a premonition.
A premonition dream.
I didn't know it was a premonition then, and I didn't want it to be a premonition.
Well, of course you did. Sure.
Because we were looking at, we'd already bought our good silverware. We were looking at dishes.
Again, those are all those things that you say that are about the wedding, not about the marriage.
That's right.
Now, when you brought this subject up, your concerns up with your fiance, did you kind of hope that he would quell your concerns and everything would, but it didn't happen that way?
It didn't happen. It didn't happen that way.
And it seems like that scarred you.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it scarred me exactly, but it made me think.
It left a really bad impression because you were a little bit against marriage from that point.
Here is the thing that happened, and on that night we broke up, and that was really hard for me. I didn't want to do that, and I came home and I told my parents, and my father went ballistic.
Why? Why did he go ballistic? Was it an embarrassment to the family? How dare you?
I was on his track. I was running on his
part of his
program.
Okay. How old were you at the time?
I was 22.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So
you were old.
I was like,
7 years ago.
I was on that marriage track and doing what I was pre-programmed to do.
Yeah,
I was a good girl. I was a really good girl.
How many years between that point and the time you met Joseph?
Oh, more than I admit to.
Come on.
No, I really never tell.
Oh, you don't tell. Okay. So there was some time went by.
Yeah, but let me tell you this. So what happened was, my father wanted to sue the guy for breach of promise.
I'm so sorry.
That is
so Italian.
It is so Italian. And I once asked an attorney, I said, did that ever happen at all in the 20th century? And she said, I think it happened once. I said, well, it almost happened twice.
Oh, my gosh.
But I remember running
would have had a case? Nobody would have taken that case.
Well, but I was the one who broke the engagement. He would have been suing me. But he couldn't even think that. He couldn't even think that I was smart enough to think that he just couldn't believe that it would be me that broke the engagement. Which, after I started to get some balance back, I thought, my father, who I was a daddy's girl, so I know he loved me.
Well, sure he did. He loved all his children, but you were the favorite.
I was the favorite. Okay. And so you broke his heart. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I thought, if he can't get past his own dumb pre-program to know what was best for me, there was never going to be another person in this whole world who was ever going to know what was better for me than me.
Well, that's okay. There's some of that. I would agree. I'm not playing psychotherapist here, but that generation, our parents' generation, my parents went. My brother had broken an engagement, and you would have thought there was a death in the family. Now, my mother always said, better a broken engagement than a broken marriage. Well, guess what? I was the one that broke the marriage, and that was not me. Like, our marriage didn't. Right. That's another story, but. In fact, we'll in the spirit of full disclosure, we'll tell everybody that one of my next projects, I've been saying this for a few years, but it's been on the back burner, is a book as well about marriage, and it's everything I know about marriage I learned through divorce. Oh. We'll talk about that. So
and that's really true. It's really
very true because I really studied it, and that's why I take a little bit of issue with some of the things that you're saying here. But we'll talk about that. So let's fast forward. You went through this depression. You became cynical. You became cynical because your engagement broke up. You saw many friends whose marriages had failed at a very young age. The fairy tale was just crushed for you. Cinderella didn't have a glass slipper. She had rags. And
but I don't know if it was cynical as much as I realized at that moment, when I realized nobody was going to know better for me what was right for me than me.
Right.
It was when I took over full power of my own life, full responsibility of my own life. And that once you take over full responsibility of your life, you can't, everything changes.
Now, since you've met Joseph and you've married, 5 times now?
6.
6? You've already had 6 weddings?
Well, we had our 6th wedding. We're in our 5th marriage.
Okay. All right. And how many years until the 7th wedding?
A year and a half.
Oh, so you're getting close. All right.
Yeah.
So I have a proposal for you guys toward the end. But in that time, when you developed, an idea of what you wanted, you caved to Joseph. You wanted to marry Annmarie, and she said, no, let's buy a house.
House, then a watch.
And then a watch.
I don't have a watch. So.
You still don't have the watch?
I don't have a watch, no.
You didn't put that in the contract?
No.
Well, somebody was saying earlier today, I don't know, just a few minutes ago, it's Valentine's Day. What are you going to get your sweetie? I don't know. There might be an idea there. Do we have a sponsor? Rolex, Timex?
Watch?
Sounds good, yes.
How did you deal, Joseph, with that kind of, not rejection? She didn't say, no, I don't want you. She said, no, I don't want to get married.
Well, she didn't say exactly she didn't want to get married. She wanted to think about it.
Okay.
And And then that's when she came up with the idea about marriage being not a 5-year 5-year term. Every 5 years, we sit down
and you renew the contract
and see what we're going to do,
so
which is part of the contract.
She took this, what was, for most people, because marriage, before the state took over, and we can talk about that, but it was a religious ceremony in the Catholic faith and in the Jewish faith as well. It's sacramental. And you said, no, I got to make this very concrete, bring it to something tangible that I can understand, put it in a contract. And the term is going to be 5 years. And every 5 years we'll re-up. And that's
if
where
we still like each other.
If you still like each other. Well, you two still like each other. They're sitting rather close.
We like each other, yeah.
Okay, that's good. But at any time during any of those marriages, did you give up your independence and say, you know what, Joseph knows me as well as I know myself, and my interest is in his best interest? Did you ever come to that conclusion? Because just looking at Joseph, and I don't know him but, half hour at this point, I think he has your better interest in mind. I think he would take a few hits for you. Am I wrong? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, Joseph.
Yes, but we both did. And I'm a successful massage therapist. I would not be successful without her.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes she had to say, I'll go with you. I need to do whatever you want me to do to enhance your career.
So she lived in the marriage for you. You lived in the marriage for her. And isn't that what an ideal marriage is about?
Yes, but most marriages aren't that way.
No, they're not. And
okay.
You're saying the solution is 5-year contract renewal. Well, all right.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that and when we come back from the break, I'll explain why.
Okay, I was going to say that. We are about to break. Lorraine Rannali on Annmarie Kelly's Friday Happy Hour, WCHE 1520. We'll be back.
Hi, this is Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. If you're getting inspired with ideas and feeling empowered, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more for you. Tips, downloads, resources at the Victorious Woman Project. Go to victoriouswoman.com and look around and get on my mailing list so you can be the first to know about the newest good things I have for you. That's www.victoriouswoman.com.
What's next? I'll tell you what's next. It's happy hour. It's Friday, and I'm drinking water. How about you guys?
Tea.
Yeah. It's Annmarie Kelly's show. Lorraine Rannali sitting in as guest host because we are talking today about Anne-Marie's new book, soon to be released. June, you said? June it will be released. It's called The 5-Year Marriage. And the website for that is the5yearmarriage.com. Let's get some plugs in midway through the show.
Thanks.
So Joseph is a massage therapist. You have your own business?
Yes, I do.
And where's that?
It's in Wayne, Pennsylvania.
In Wayne, and where in Wayne?
It's probably near the Gateway Shopping Center.
Okay.
And near
right
that
off
area
of 202.
Right off 202.
And
yes.
252.
Yes.
And do you have a website?
Yes, stoppingthepain.com.
Stoppingthepain.com. That's pretty easy. Stoppingthepain.com.
Yes, it is.
Are you the only therapist there? Do you have a
We have
cadre?
two other therapists working with me at my office, and we have a contract with the Marion Cricket Club. We have 2 therapists down there as well.
Oh, okay. So if somebody's in pain and they need a little help, Stop the Pain.
Yes.
Stopping the Pain.
Stoppingthepain.com.
All right. Anything else we need to plug here?
No, I think we're good right now.
We're probably not going to take phone calls. 610-701-WCHE. That's 9243. 610-701-9243.
And you're at LorraineRannali.com.
I am, yes. And I have all kinds of things. Let me tell you about a little project I'm working on. Just a little aside, and we'll digress a few times here since we're doing shameless plugs here. Marianne mentioned my book. Marianne, listen to me. Annmarie mentioned my book, Gravy Wars, which came out in 2009. And it's interesting, I've said this before on social media. I've said it before on the radio as well. Kind of interesting that, Food Wars came out after that. I'm not saying they copied. All right, maybe I am. But all these food competitions kind of came out, and they were using war. And I thought, well, that's cool. But, hey, can somebody help me with the tipping point here? Also, I don't know if you saw CBS is doing something locally. Right now they're doing a gravy war. Yeah, so if we know any lawyers. I thought maybe this whole 5-year project, I was wondering if you work with a lawyer lobby in D.C. or something, because, if these 5-year commitments, these term marriages, don't work, the divorce rate could really shoot up, and there could be many more quick divorces in 5 years. You're not even finding this funny. Never mind.
But yeah.
Well, but only because I know that like, let's for example, in Mexico, they have already proposed a 2-year marriage.
They did, yeah. You mentioned that.
And Australia doesn't let you get divorced until you go for therapy.
Well, that's kind of a bad thing, I guess. So, real quick, back to my plug. I am I'm shopping theater venues right now for a series of one-act plays that I have, kind of related to my book. They're humorous. They're slapstick type of funny humor about the Italian-American culture. Yet to be titled. Each individual one act has a title. And so I throw that out there. Art and theater, in case you're listening. So.
And don't forget, we have a new performing arts center right down the street, the Nauer Performing Arts Center.
Oh, you'll have to make me some introductions. This is all networking, folks. You talked about the Mexico 2-year marriage. Australia, they won't let you divorce until there's some proof of therapy and real effort there.
If it's less than 5 years, you have to go for therapy, and and then there's like a whole bunch of stuff that you have to prove that you went to therapy, that you before they will let you will grant a divorce.
And you've done some research that is evident in your book about the different statistics and whatnot with divorce and marriage. Of course, and I think it's pretty common knowledge, the divorce rate is at 50%. Second marriages, the divorce rate shoots up to over 65%, I believe.
And third marriage is 75%.
Yeah, and you guys are going for the Elizabeth Taylor record, although you've married the same person. And hey, there's nothing in Guinness that says in the Guinness book that says you can't marry the same person over and over. So you might just take that record.
I'm competing for Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Oh, how many did she have?
Oh, I think she had like 9 marriages.
Oh my gosh, really? But we joke about this. The thing is, what?
Oh no, I'm fine.
Oh, I thought you were waving. Joseph, he's stretching.
I'm counting 7 times 5, 9 times 5.
Oh,
right.
Be 45 years.
45 years.
You can get there.
Well, we're 28 now, so.
Yeah.
But we don't know if we're going to like each other even a year and a half from now. So.
She's being funny. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Come on, the commitment's there. Well, here's the thing. So your whole proposal about doing this in 5-year increments and renegotiating or reevaluating the contract after every 5 years, it requires the two involved to analyze your relationship, where it's been, where it's going, to do the kind of communication every marriage should do anyhow. So I applaud this because your communication plan is excellent. Marriages work. There's 4 rings in marriage. You know that, right?
Oh, I've heard this before, but go ahead.
You've counted them, right? There's the engagement ring, the 2 wedding rings, and suffering, right? No,
and see, that's exactly the kind of thing that made me think up the 5-year marriage.
But you give everybody an out. Do you really want an out? Here's my concern. So if, you created this, and this is a good plan for you, and it might be a good plan for others, but on the surface, you take a young 24-year-old who's being pressured by his girlfriend to get married, and he says, well, would you do the 5-year marriage? And she says, yeah, I'll do anything just to marry you, honey, you're the best. What happens then? And, he's in year 3, and he's like, all right, I'm going to start shopping around because I ain't 30 yet. I can get somebody new. Like, what does that do,
This marriage is not for somebody like that.
No marriages. Would you disagree?
Yeah.
So then why do you need the 5-year marriage? Why can't you commit for life?
Because what you said earlier was that it's about communication, and a lot of the things that I include in the 5-year marriage are things that every couple should do, but they don't. And here's where the 5-year marriage thing really makes the shift. Everybody would like to do it, and they say they will do it, but if you have forever to do it,
you'll put it off.
If you know you only have 5 years to do it,
you're going to get to it.
Then it goes on, stuff goes on the back burner. It goes on the back burner. Just not too long ago, I was talking to a man, and I think they'd been married 20 years, and his spouse filed for divorce. And he was shocked. And I laughed. And I thought I had no idea it was going to happen. And I thought she was probably talking about that for 10 years.
And he just
you weren't listening.
Yeah. Well, and that happens a lot.
I hear that many times.
I do as well.
Or I hear that it's one of Joseph's clients and I were talking about this, and she was married at 18. She was 18. She knew nothing. She married an older man. He was not dominant, but he was in charge. And she's in her 70s, so it would be of that time of the 50s, you know. So it was normal. By the time she was 23, she had gained maturity, she gained wisdom, and she knew what she was doing, and she didn't like being told what to do. And she said, if we had had a 5-year marriage, I don't think we would have gotten divorced. We would just have renegotiated how we did everything.
Because he treated her as though she was still 19.
Okay.
I know that I'm not the same person I was when I first immigrated, because I stutter, stammer. My comfort level circle was so small that I didn't want to do anything because of my anxiety. But through the 5-year marriage, knowing what I want to do as a profession, we began to sit down, for me and for her, saying, what do you want to do? What do you need to do to get there? What are the spiritual developments? What are your social development? What are your intellectual developments? What do you need to do to get there? And so those, I don't think that we would not have focused on this almost like a laser beam if we didn't have the 5-year marriage.
You think you would have put it off? You wouldn't have communicated as much?
Absolutely.
But even with somebody like Annmarie, who's going to, hey, Joseph, get over here. We're sitting down. We're communicating tonight. She has that kind of personality.
She does, yeah. And I could say, oh, I'll get to it. But
knowing that she wouldn't put up with that. Forget about the 5-year marriage.
Yeah. But how would he know that I wasn't going to put up with it if he said, oh, we'll get to it, we'll get to it, we'll get to it?
Well, because you wouldn't have. Right then and there, you would have said, no, Joseph, we have a date next Tuesday night.
I don't know how many times. I don't know that I would have done that because in traditional marriage, people will say, oh, you know, okay, it's all right. I'll just wait. We make excuses in our heads. Okay. And then there isn't any immediacy. And then life happens. You know, when we got married in 2008, in 2003, we had a series of plans. But between 2003 and 2008, both of our mothers needed extreme amount of care. They both moved out of their houses.
You were taking care. You mentioned that in the book as well.
And that would have been a perfect time for us to just let everything fall by the wayside.
But you needed each other. As much as you each needed to be with your respective parents and take care of a lot of issues, and then you have your own work, and then you have your life together and yourselves and whatnot, you needed each other. I'm sure you bounced off each other. You had the support of each other.
With regards to our mothers, but not with regards to each other. If it had not been for the 5-year marriage.
The work.
That is the work.
Yeah. Now, you say in your book, you have you outline here, the difference between this marriage as the 5-year marriage and a traditional marriage is that Joseph and I acknowledge the flaws and make a conscious commitment to work with them in the context of the marriage. You don't think you can take that premise and teach it to people, young couples, dating, you know, that courtship period? That's what that period's supposed to be about, no?
But it isn't.
Well,
it almost never is.
I know, but that's not the ideal thing. So don't you think your efforts might be better spent trying to engage people who are engaged or plan to be engaged and try to help them learn to communicate? That's the whole reason I got into the pre-Canada.
But and you know this, that before I started with Victoria's Woman, before Victoria's Woman was published, that's what I did in corporate America. I did communications training, management development, and so yeah, I think that's all really important. Except I've been around long enough to see that all the best intentions. What's that phrase? The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Something like that, yes.
And that really is the thing.
That's the human
good
experience
intentions.
Everybody talks about that.
So I would rather the human experience that we have is just learning to deal with each other's. You know, we're not perfect. We argue. I mean, there are people who say, "Oh, is it true we get along so well?" I said, "Well, you should be there sometime when we're screaming at each other."
Yeah, well, that happens. Sure.
But I think. We don't have family meetings as often as we had them in the past, but every once in a while when we start hitting a snag, it's like we need to have a family meeting. And then we'll have them for a period of time until we're able to work that thing out. So you created
kind of a routine, a groove that you've both gotten into where you know when things aren't quite right, one of you will suggest, hey, we need to have a little meeting, hash it out, talk about it, make a plan. That's good communication.
And that doesn't happen over usually one family. Do you think one family meeting? It almost never happens in a family meeting.
No. Everything's a process.
It's like a series of meetings.
Sure.
Yes, sometimes we have to think about the 3 parts of a marriage. In our case, her, the marriage and me, and then and how we're going to work this together. And
I have a different different triangle, but we'll talk about that.
And so, like at this part right now, when we sat down, she said, well, we need to start focusing on my book. Mm-hmm. So I had to say, you're right. So I needed to slowly change things that I do for work to help her out.
Understood.
Because she's
that's the sacrificial love that...
It is sacrificial love, I agree, but it's something that I felt that is a necessity that she needed to do for that. And I know that she can't do it by herself.
We're coming up on a break, so am I right, Fred? I am. I want to get back to that. I want to just go back a little bit and ask you some questions, Joseph, about the beginning, and then we're going to wrap up with some suggestions and some... I never got the final chapter, so we'll find out what that is. You're listening to WCHE, and this is 1520 a.m. on the Friday Happy Hour.
Are you one of those women who lived the first part of your life as a really good girl? That is, you did all the right things and followed all the so-called rules for women? I was like that, too. But have you noticed that once you passed 40, you have less patience for those rules? Maybe you even think that the rules really don't make sense for you anymore. Maybe they never did and you just didn't realize it. Do you want to go where other recovering good girls meet to inspire each other and support their new empowered selves? Then join me, Annmarie Kelly, and some very fabulous victorious women. We're on Facebook at the Victorious Woman Project. So go to facebook.com/Victorious Woman Project. I'll talk to you there.
Voice is that? Do you know? No? Okay. Well, it was a pretty good one. I like it anyway.
Yeah, it is a good one.
So this is the Friday Happy Hour. I have dihydrogen oxide, and you guys are drinking tea. Yeah, I'm living on the edge here. So Annmarie Kelly is the guest. I am the guest host in this week's kind of flip-flop of the show because we're talking about Anne-Marie's book, The 5-Year Marriage, the5yearmarriage.com. And her gracious husband, Joseph, is also with us today. He gave up some work this afternoon to be here. This is the first promotion. I'm so honored to be able to do this. And to do this, if you're just tuning in, Annmarie asked me to go ahead and interview her about her book. And when I read it, I had some serious concern because I don't quite agree with the whole 5-year term contract thing. But there's so much in here about relationships that's very pertinent. And one of the things I wanted to point out, you mentioned, Annmarie, that somebody you heard once say this about marriage. And you said the very best way I heard fairness explained was from an older man, recently widowed. He'd been happily and lovingly married for a very long time. When asked what the secret of marital happiness was, he said, we want it more for each other than we want it for ourselves. Now,
I always thought that was beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it's so true. And that's the sacrificial love. And that's the kind of love that young couples need to understand going into marriage. Because if you go into any relationship looking at what's in it for me, which most of us do. We're geared to that, okay? We're all listening to WIIFM, what's in it for me. But when you really live for the other person, your relationships are that much better. Any kind of relationship. Now, you take that to the marital relationship, right? And everything that the wife is doing is this going to benefit my husband? And everything the husband's doing, is this going to benefit my wife? That's the sacrificial love. You're going to have a dynamite relationship.
See, when you say sacrificial love, that's not in my head. It's because I think that it's the kind of love that you would have.
It's the giving love. And when you give, you get more than you ever. But if you live to get, if you're a taker, you don't ever get and you never get satisfied. You just want more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it becomes like a black hole. And you just keep trying to find stuff to fill it and fill it and fill it.
But if you have the disposition, and it's something that, let's face it, 12 years of Catholic school, we were kind of browbeaten with this, right?
Oh, I graduated Newman 16 years of Catholic school.
Yeah, but Newman doesn't count. I went to Cabrini. That's as Catholic as my little pinky. Give me a break. No, they're not Catholic schools, please. That's another subject for another show. Sorry, alma mater. Anyway, but the thing is, we understand, we learn, because we had that faith instilled in us, for better or worse. And I understand not everybody's on the same page, but this is the benefit of a faith-based marriage or a faith faith-based existence, you tend to understand that you ain't the end all. There's something bigger than you out there, and the more that you concentrate on others' happiness, the more you get. So life is better that way. We don't always live it that way. I'm preaching here, and I need correction every day.
No, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
But here's the thing that I think, and it's the thing that I certainly didn't know when I thought this idea up. I absolutely didn't know it when we hit the wall in our second marriage. But over time, I think that there's a trust that builds up.
Absolutely.
And the trust that builds up creates an intimacy that I just don't think first of all, you can't get it. Like people think intimacy is all about the sex part.
No.
But
it goes well beyond that.
But when those pheromones start flaking off, you better have something else.
And that's the deep love that you have for each other. And sure, that is increased over time. So where you come with this premise that love shouldn't be forever because that's a real long time. And I kind of gleaned that from what I read in your manuscript. But what you're saying now is something quite different. And I know you believe this because you're at this 6 marriages later to the same person. You do believe in that deep, long-lasting love because it keeps growing. Sure, there's going to be bumps in the road.
Oh, yeah.
It's how you handle, right? It's the lemonade you make with those lemons.
It's the acknowledgement that, like for example, in 2003 when we got married, and then stuff happened with our mothers. Mm-hmm. Everything that happened and all the interaction that had to go on with family, and it changed you.
Sure.
So when we got married in 2008, we were very different people in 2008 than we were in 2003.
It had nothing to do with the marriage. It had to do with the time and you're maturing and growing and the experiences.
It had to do with the pressures that we had been under.
Sure, yeah, that's life, right?
And all that kind of stuff. Everybody has those, but we acknowledge that.
And some people do, and some people do a better job. I would argue you did a way better job than most because you have a very acute sensitivity to this and the fact that it's something that needs to be addressed. Let me circle back just in the interest of time because we're looking at a clock that's moving quicker than I'd like. Joseph, when Annmarie first proposed the 5-year marriage and said, I'll marry you, but we're going to reevaluate this contract in 5 years. What was your gut feeling? Can you be honest? Did you immediately embrace it, or were you like, that bothers me?
Well, if she would have said contract,
yeah,
I would have probably what do you mean? But I would have been taken back. But she didn't say contract.
Okay. All right.
She said, let's get married every 5 years. And so, yeah, a little bit concerned about that. But
you really wanted to marry me?
Yeah.
Oh, look at these guys. This is radio. Let me tell you, the look in her eyes and the smile on his face right now.
But once she sat down with me and explained to me exactly what she was thinking of and what she went through to get her to that perception about the original marriage that she saw and what I saw, I could understand. Then I was on board with that. It was that simple.
Was there a little bit of the younger Joseph that said, all right, I'll do this because I don't want to lose this girl?
Oh, of course, there's a sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, back then, as I said, I was a very shy person. I knew the qualities that she was in her.
She had a good resume.
She had a good resume,
sure.
And I know the qualities that she had, age cannot take away.
Oh, sure.
I mean, she's caring, she's intelligent, she's thoughtful, she's a good friend, she's dependable, and sometimes...
This is a great commercial.
Oh, yeah.
VictoriousWomen.com.
I used to meditate on what characters I want of a person. I used to meditate every single night. And then
before you met her?
Before I met her.
That's the law of attraction. I love it.
Yeah, and I focused.
We were both doing that.
And even though she's attractive, I didn't. That was.
You were looking deeper.
I was looking deeper, and sure enough, about 6 months later, the genie gave me my wish on that. But the 5-year, I think the 5-year marriage. Gave us the opportunity to grow as a couple, and it's more. I think 5 marriages is like a business plan.
That's what I'm reading, and that's why I'm having trouble with it.
If a company does not have a business plan,
absolutely,
it's going to stay stagnated.
Yes, and if it's going to grow, it's got to reevaluate that plan, expand it, change it, make it.
And also we need a deadline. Deadlines don't get done if it's like a very short deadline.
I get deadlines. Yeah.
We get paranoid. Oh God, we go when we can't do this. if it's, as you mentioned before, if it's way out there 30 years from now, we'll get to it.
Right.
The 5-year marriage is enough time to say, I need to do something here to improve. What do I need
All right,
to do?
I got to throw a quick question, and I know you address it in the book, and if you can, very succinctly, because I know people listening are saying, what about kids? Those first 5 years are probably the 5 years you're going to start having your family, if not the first 10. How does that impact kids? And then children. So somebody says, a couple says, okay, we're going to do this 5-year plan. We want children. We both agree we want 2 children, let's say. 2 years, 4.5 years, there's 2 babies, a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old. And it's Splitsville in marriage number 3. Now the children are older, but the children know that mom and dad are going to do this marriage thing every 5 years. What kind of anxiety does that put on a small child?
Well, wait a minute. What kind of anxiety? Go ahead, Joe.
Let me, because when you told Annmarie you're going to ask that question, I thought about that. I know when a child's 2 years old, he's already mimicking his parents' posture and movement patterns. Mm-hmm. If the parents have good posture, good movement patterns, most likely that child will have good movement pattern and posture.
So if it's a bad marriage, it's a bad marriage and a bad influence to begin with.
Exactly.
If it's a good marriage, it's going to be good.
But if the child or children sees their parents sitting down saying, we have a problem here, or we want to do this, let's discuss this, don't you think the child's going to learn from that?
I think there's definitely something to be said for that. No, I understand that. We're at the time where you want to wrap up, so I just want to throw in this, if you don't mind. We're talking about Annmarie's book, The 5-Year Marriage, the5yearmarriage.com. Thank you so much for having me, Lorraine Rannali, fill in as your guest host today on the Friday Happy Hour. I hope that the two of you, Annmarie and Joseph, as you consider your next wedding, which will be wedding number 7, will consider, because Annmarie comes from a baptized Catholic background, and because, yes, you mentioned Joseph too. Okay, I didn't know that. That's great. Yeah. I'd like you to consider the purpose of marriage, which we spoke about on the phone. Did you tell Joseph?
Oh, about wanting us to commit for 30 years?
Well, the purpose what I learned about marriage through divorce was the purpose of marriage is to get each other to heaven. Now, I know everybody listening, there are some who have no faith or whatnot, or don't practice the faith in particular. But if you are of the Judeo-Christian faith, then you understand the purpose of marriage is to get to heaven. So if you're living for each other to get to heaven, it's going to be work. But a lot of the communication you lay out in this plan could be part of that. So I propose you give it some consideration.
Well, we don't even know if we're going to like each other in a year and a half.
Oh, give me a break. Commit to liking each other.
Lorraine, thanks so much for coming today. Thank you for doing this. This was great. Joseph, thank you for coming. If you go to the radio wrap-up at victoriouswoman.com, you can get in touch with Lorraine and see what services she offers. And she does a lot of really good things at LorraineRannali.com. And you, wonderful listeners, thank you so much for listening today. I'm curious about your thoughts on today's show. So please let me know. You can post a comment on today's radio wrap-up at victoriouswoman.com. You can send me an email at Annmarie Kelly at victoriouswoman.com. And you can go to Victorious Woman Project on Facebook and let me know. Again, Joseph, thank you. I know that this was, I know you lost a few massages today, so you can get in touch with Joseph at stoppingthepain.com. And I'm going to leave you with this quote from Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. And Carrie said, as I put the wedding gown away, I couldn't help but wonder, why is it that we're willing to write our own vows, but not our own rules? That's just a little something I'm working on. Me too, Carrie. I'm wishing you all a wonderful weekend and a happy Valentine's Day. Jen's on.
Thanks for listening to this Friday Happy Hour. Make sure you subscribe, rate and review today's show. And join us again next week for the Friday Happy Hour with Annmarie Kelly.